Ladies and gentlemen, Fourth and Trollers, and Tua Tagovailoa, welcome back to Fourth and Troll Fantasy, the most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. My name is Noah Selby.
I was Selby.
And we are back with another episode, and we are officially done with week one of the NFL season.
Woo,
what a time it was. We made it through. Some people better than others. Some Tua owners are hyped. Some T. Higgins owners are, well, probably crying right now. So that's probably how that went. It was a wild week one, especially for us, Wes. How you doing? How are you doing after this weekend?
In case anyone forgot or didn't hear on one of our episodes, Noah and I were at that Dolphins-Chargers game on Sunday. And first and foremost, I would say a 60-40 split between Chargers-Dolphins fans at least. It was loud. The energy was hyped. We were in a good section. Middle of the field, at the top of the stadium, surrounded by Dolphins fans, just high-fiving everybody after all of those touchdowns. And who would have thought that we'd be part of a little bit of history in some way? From what my understanding, that was the fourth most passing yards in week one, and that was the third most receiving yards in week one. Mm-hmm. Tua and Tyreek are racing each other for the MVP by week one. What a blast. How did you enjoy it, Noah?
Yeah, it was great. To add on to that little piece of history, I don't have every name on the list, but Tua joins an elite group of quarterbacks, including Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. I know Joe Montana's on that list. I believe Dan Marino's on this list of quarterbacks to throw for 450-plus yards and 3-plus touchdowns on the road. He joins an elite group of players on that list. Very small list. I think it's only about 6 players. Man, I'm amazed at how my voice is holding up right now, if I'm being honest.
Same for both of us, honestly.
I have never screamed and had so many puberty-filled voice cracks in my entire life in a given span of 3 hours. It was a great time. It was a
fins up, dude.
Fins up forever. For those who have been around since last season, Wes and I went to the Dolphins-Chargers game last year.
Oh.
And we had a terrible time. It was such a hard game to watch. We hated the Dolphins. And it took us about 36 hours to get over it, and we were back in which is like anybody with a diehard fandom. But we made it. We made it through, and now we witnessed an incredible game and a great weekend of football. A lot of games, some big upsets, some huge fantasy performances. We're going to talk about all of it in today's episode and then look forward to Thursday night football. Also going to talk to you a little bit about who you need to be targeting on the waiver wire. Some big names popped up that are definitely out there and not rostered in many leagues, who we believe can be difference makers, whether it's through an injury, just an opportunity to step up to. It's going to be a good time. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. I'm collecting all of my feelings because I'm about to just vomit all of them out into this on this episode. It's going to be the best time ever. Excuse me. So sorry, but they're already trying to come out. They're already trying to make their way out.
Yeah, not even in actual words. They're just trying to escape.
It's just
emotions are high.
To get out. Yeah.
Football is back.
Football is back, baby. Before we jump into it, follow us on all our social media below. We're tweeting out stuff. We're posting stuff. We're getting reels out there. We're getting TikToks out there. All the important stuff that you guys need to know about. We are getting it out there for you. And while you're down there, subscribe, ring that bell, leave us a comment. Let us know if you won week one, you lost week one, who did you in, and who won it for you. Let us know. And we're going to have some fun today. Before we do that, let's jump into the news. And even actually before we do that, before I forget, let's do a word from our sponsor real quick. The show is sponsored by FQ Media Group. FQ is a media production company that specializes in podcast production that empowers others to share their voice with their audience. For more information, check out fqmediagroup.com. And now, Wes, let's jump into the news because Monday Night Football got extremely less exciting about 4 plays in. And we got to talk about
Yep.
it. Just let's jump into it here because, man, just no one thought Monday night was going to go that way.
Aaron Rodgers went down on the first drive as a New York Jet and was carted off, and they ruled him out after about a couple minutes. And then it has been determined that he has a torn Achilles and he is already done for this season. And Robert Saleh has already announced that Zach Wilson will be the starting quarterback for the New York Jets. A lot does change for this Jets offense, and let's talk just briefly about how this affects the entire team, because we have some players that we're excited about. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, both did well, but how will they continue to do well? Does Dalvin Cook's role change? What about the other receivers, the tight ends? I'll let you lead the way and give your first opinion on what happens now.
Yeah, well, my first opinion is that their league-leading primetime games are going to be a lot more boring now, and I can't believe we're going to have to watch Zach Wilson in like 7 primetime games this year. Oof. Whatever. Listen, when it comes to fantasy for these players, I've got some thoughts. And maybe listen, Garrett Wilson could prove me wrong because somehow that catch tonight, we were talking about it, and listen, when Zach Wilson throws a football, the difficulty level goes up to make a catch because it's not always as good as you'd want it to be.
Sure.
And, so Garrett Wilson was drafted at the end of the first round, beginning of the second round in fantasy drafts usually this offseason. Yeah, you guys are going to take a hit on that one if you took Garrett Wilson. I took Garrett Wilson in one of my leagues because I was like, you know what? Let's take the shot on the ceiling. Pretty quickly tonight, I was like, wow, that ceiling is extremely capped. Now, listen, Garrett Wilson is incredible, but he is going to take a hit down, obviously. When you go from Aaron Rodgers to Zach Wilson, that is a downgrade. But Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook, they're getting the uptick in my book. They're actually getting an uptick in my book. I think I'll say, here's what I'll say. I'll say uptick or neutral. But I do think this team is now going to be relying on these running backs a bit more than they were when they had Aaron Rodgers. And I think we saw that on Monday night. It seemed like the Jets did not want Zach Wilson to be throwing the football. They were giving a lot of opportunities to Dalvin Cook, to Breece Hall, and they were making pretty good work of it. Dalvin Cook didn't have any explosive plays, but he looked good getting a few yards of carry at a time. And obviously we all saw Breece Hall explosive. I think it was like an 89-yard run. The stat line at one point after that run was like 2 rushes for 105 yards. Everyone was like, Breece Hall is pacing 54.5 yards a carry. He is on pace for 20,000 rushing yards this season, whatever it is. Listen, running backs get an uptick. Garrett Wilson gets a downtick. I don't know if any of us were really thinking Allen Lazard or Randall Cobb were going to be super relevant guys this year for this offense, but they get a downtick. Pass catchers, downtick. I think the running backs get an uptick, and obviously, if you drafted Aaron Rodgers, I'm sorry. I think it's might be a tough.
That's tough, especially as a QB1.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. As we were waiting on quarterback, and Rodgers, such a value, dude. Such a value in the 12th round. Just going to grab him. Yeah. Well, Baker Mayfield's probably on your waiver wire, so you can go grab him if you want to. Listen, that's my thoughts. Wes, what are you thinking?
So I actually am not that concerned about Garrett Wilson, believe it or not. So his ceiling does go down, but I am actually not worried. I'm not worried. And I think you can go ahead and make a trade for him. I would still field offers as well for Garrett Wilson because there may be someone that is a huge Jets fan, or maybe they saw that amazing catch for that touchdown in the end zone. That was insane. So maybe there are some truthers, and if they're going to make you a good offer, I have no problem taking it. Okay, it's not like Jamar Chase. Okay, the panic around the Bengals. Calm down on that. We'll talk about them soon. But Garrett Wilson last year was awful with Zach Wilson. Okay, I pulled up some stats because I actually mentioned him last year and what he did with and without Zach Wilson. With Zach Wilson, 8.3 fantasy points without Zach Wilson, 19.4 fantasy points a game.
Yeah.
But here's what I saw from this game. I know the targets were low and the opportunities were pretty poor, and they were relying heavily, just as you said, on the ground game. But who is the wide receiver that's starting for them that played with Zach last year? Mm-hmm. It's Garrett Wilson. And Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb were brought in by Rodgers and for Rodgers. So anyone that was believing in Randall Cobb or Allen Lazard, don't. Let's move on from them. That's what I think, because the quarterback that was going to give them the opportunity is not going to be there anymore. But Garrett Wilson, I think, is going to be just fine. You're not going to have the 25-plus point games, probably. Certainly not the 30-point games that I thought he was going to get with Aaron Rodgers. But I'm actually not worried about Garrett Wilson. I think it's going to be just fine. And when you're not playing a defense like the Buffalo Bills, there'll be more opportunities for Wilson to throw. And let's not forget that Aaron Rodgers is still in the building. So Wilson is going to have Rodgers as a coach. He's going to have him there for the whole season. It's going to help. There's been a lot from Hard Knocks and everyone else talking about the maturation of Zach Wilson. He's showing signs that he's going to learn and he's going to grow. I feel fine about Garrett Wilson. I'll still start him. You can't not start him for the value that you draft him at, but I'm okay. Let's see what happens next week, baby. I'm pumped.
Yeah, I think that's a fair actually outlook on it, because he scored 14.4 fantasy points against the Bills defense, and every single catch came from Zach Wilson. And yeah, I mean 14.4, no one's upset about that. I think that was around what he was probably projected this week. Yeah, I think Garrett. I think you're onto something here, because I believe that Zach Wilson has improved. I think Rodgers has been a good mentor, maybe, for him, and so I think that is a good. I think that's a good analysis, that you're always going to play him. And yeah, he got nearly 15 points with Zach Wilson, and I think that's more than he got all year last year with Zach Wilson. And so and that was against a tough Bills defense. So I think you're right. I think you are safe to still go ahead and obviously roll him out, like you said. You have to, but I don't think you need to be. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think you need to be super scared. I think we're going to see what happens. And listen, go Jets, go! I guess I don't know. It's just I feel Jets. We're Dolphins fans, and obviously it's a rival. You got to feel for this fan base a little bit. They're just. I saw grown men on Twitter.
They're cursed.
Just posting videos, just pouring their hearts out. Why does it always happen to the Jets, man? It is such a Jets situation. But listen, maybe Rodgers comes back for one more. We'll see what happens. I think he's due to. So we'll see what happens. I know he's probably going to come back for a revenge tour. JTS.
Continue with the news, shall we?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last little bit on the Rodgers situation. How funny is it, in an ironic, not ha-ha funny way, that the Packers won't get the compensation for the trade because it was a certain amount of snaps. How about that, huh?
So does it go to a second? It goes go to a second round pick.
I don't remember exactly how the compensation.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, they're not going to get it because Rodgers won't play any more than 4 snaps.
Oh
Boom!
My gosh, that's all right. They're on their third Hall of Fame quarterback in a row, so it's all good.
Yeah, Jordan Love is going to be just fine. Okay,
Boom.
So Cooper Kupp, speaking of injuries, Cooper Kupp was officially placed on IR earlier in the week, meaning he will be out at least 4 weeks. Something that you mentioned, Noah, is that they may not push him to come back, depending on how their win-loss record is. We'll talk about how that team looks in a little bit.
Yeah.
Speaking of big injuries, hey, Travis Kelce was feared to have a season-ending tibia plateau fracture was what they had determined it could have been, but instead it's a deep bone bruise. So Travis Kelce is possibly going to be back next week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Once the swelling is down, obviously they will not rush him, but wow, they need him very badly. Christian Watson was ruled out for week 1 on Friday before the Sunday game against the Bears, and he is considered week to week with a hamstring injury. Deontay Johnson was ruled out in the third quarter I know, with a hamstring injury. And as you pointed out when you and I were waiting in the stadium for the game, Noah, quick evaluation. He was out pretty fast. As of the recording of this episode, we don't have an update on his status, whether he'll be week to week, day to day, but we'll obviously keep you posted on what happens there. J.K. Dobbins is done for the season. He tore his Achilles, and it's going to be Gus Edwards as the presumed starter, according to the depth chart for the Ravens. Going forward, they did re-sign Melvin Gordon from the practice squad, so anyone that decided, I'll just see where he goes, well, he didn't go anywhere. He stayed there. It's still going to be Gus Edwards, though. Anthony Richardson did take a really big shot at the end of that Colts-Jaguars game, a surprisingly thrilling Colts-Jaguars game. He's going to be fine. It wasn't as serious as it could have been. Their head coach, Shane Steichen, actually said that they just left Richardson out to be precautionary because it was ankle, shoulder, something like that, just to make sure that he didn't get any additional risk. Aaron Jones actually dealt with a bit of a hamstring injury on his way into the end zone, but it doesn't seem to be anything too serious. I think he used the word a bite. We'll just have to monitor the situation just to be sure. But someone bit him on the way to the end zone.
Yeah.
Shocking move by the Bears. You got to do something to stop him.
Yeah.
They were just getting annihilated. Jacoby Myers, surprising, amazing game. We'll talk about him. So this is actually very relevant to fantasy because he is in the concussion protocol. Right now, no determination whether he's going to continue to stay in there. It should be about a day or two, but we'll find out if anything changes for his status on their next game. Last bit of news here. Jonathan Gannon, head coach for the Arizona Cardinals, confirmed that Josh Dobbs is the quarterback for next week against the Giants. That's it for the news. Now, we have a lot of players to talk about from week one. So much. We're going to do our best to get to the most important players. Where are we starting, Noah? Because, oh, wow, what a lot of stuff happened.
We do. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to start out with some of the highlight players of the week. And, just real quick, Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill. What a duo in Miami we got there. Tua, 466 yards and 3 touchdowns. 33.1 fantasy points. What a freaking beast out there. And so it was just, we already talked about it a little bit. I just, the first drive of the game, Miami drove down the field so smoothly, and it was like, wow, I don't know if I've seen this offense run so well. It was just 3 or 4 plays, and we were down at the 5-yard line. And it was like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? And then we fumbled, and I was like, yeah, of course, just like last time. This team sucks. It's of course. First drive of the season, and we just blew it. Nice. Way to go. And the Chargers drive down the field, and in my chest, I'm just going, I need the second drive to be somewhat of a resemblance of the first drive. I need it. And then it was just boom, again, boom, 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 dot. It was just Tua looked incredible. 21 passes. Excuse me. So sorry. 21 passes of 20 plus yards this week and at SoFi Stadium, the most in the NFL this weekend. I saw a stat at one point during the Monday Night Football game. Josh Allen on attempts of 20 plus yards, 0 for 3, 2 interceptions. Wow. Okay, so AFC East might be taken over because Tua's throwing the football 466 yards, and 215 of them are to Tyreek Hill. These guys were connecting like crazy on Sunday. 44.5 fantasy points for Tyreek Hill. If you had either of these guys on your fantasy team this week, you probably won. And they obviously Tyreek, you're just locked and loaded in there. If you had Tua on the bench and you were going, I don't know, maybe not, maybe I start somebody else. Well, you learned your lesson. And Tua Tagovailoa, starting lineup, book it. There you go. Sunday Night Football under the lights in New England this Sunday. It's going to be a fun time. Wes, we talked about him a lot. Our dude, did. Brandon Ayuk, balled out like a freaking man on a mission on Sunday. 32.9 fantasy points, 8 catches on 8 targets for 129 yards and 2 touchdowns. Listen. We don't like Deebo Samuel, you guys. We've talked about it immensely. We've called him a bust.
Right.
And this was why, is because Brandon Ayuk is the best pure receiver on this team, and that was very clear on Sunday against a good Steelers defense. Brock Purdy and Brandon Ayuk just had this connection. Ayuk, great value and great draft pick if you got him. He is a safe lock for lineups every single week. Book it. Keep him in there. Here's somebody who's ended up on this list that I didn't think we were going to talk about. Mac Jones, 30.1 fantasy points against the Philadelphia Eagles. 35 of 54. 54 passes this guy threw, 301 yards and 3 touchdowns. I'm so used to not seeing this kind of performance from Mac Jones. So listen, if Mac Jones is on your waiver wire, which he probably is, this is an unofficial. Listen, if you had Rodgers, or if you had I don't know who's another guy. If you had Josh Allen, maybe you're just worried about him. Maybe Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Go ahead and submit a waiver request for. We'll see. I mean, it's just I don't know. 30.1 fantasy points from Mac Jones is something I never thought I'd see. So here he is,
and not against a weak defense. This is the Eagles. This is the Eagles in the rain. What world are we in?
Exactly. So strange.
No words.
No words at all. Mac Jones' former wide receiver, Jacoby Myers, we just talked about him a little bit in the concussion protocol. 9 catches on 10 targets for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. 29.1 fantasy points. Is this guy the new wide receiver 1 in Vegas? Like, what are we looking at here? I mean, we knew Jimmy Garoppolo was somebody who could get his star players the ball, but 10 targets when we're lining up with Devontae Adams and you're getting more targets, more catches, and the touchdowns in this game. Something to look at and something to think about. I'm not sure exactly what to do with Jacoby Myers here. He didn't go undrafted. He was being taken towards the ends of drafts. So if you've got him, definitely keep an eye on this concussion protocol. But he's somebody that I think may be worth taking a look at and maybe some weekly flex consideration.
Yeah, I have one note as to why you should not trade him away, why you should not sell high. Devontae Adams took 90% of the snaps. Jacoby Myers took 80% of the snaps. The next closest wide receiver was Hunter Renfrow with 22% of the snaps. It's just the two of them. Yeah. It's the two of them. And just don't expect just two of us. We can
copyright claim. Sorry, YouTube.
Adams. It's going to be legitimate. It's not going to be 20 plus points, but it's going to be a consistent target share. And I buy into this. I buy it. Jacoby Myers.
Yeah.
It won't do better than Adams every week, but I keep him. Keep him on your team. That's my take.
Keep him around. He's going to be super good. And the last one here, just to talk about Jordan Love. Man, what an awesome showing from him. 29 points, 245 yards, 3 touchdowns, couple points on the ground there with rushing. I went ahead and did some digging back because we put out a reel on Instagram and on TikTok and put some out on X, on Twitter, talking about Jordan Love. And over this season and last season, Jordan Love is now tied for the most 3 touchdown games by a quarterback for the Packers. People seem to be confused by the wording on that post, so I just want to say Jordan Love has as many 3 touchdown games in one game this season as Aaron Rodgers had all year last year. Jordan Love might be something special. I don't know. We're gonna have to monitor this. He looked pretty good, dude, and he looked like he had that swagger and that confidence. He looked like he knew it's my time. I'm ready. Let's go.
Seeing him on the sideline, just got these handshakes and high fives, dude. Must be nice, Packers fans. Just back to back Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Oh, fun. Gee whiz. Enjoy it. Start Jordan Love.
Fun, another Hall of Fame quarterback.
Fun, the Packers do this again. Golly. Anyway,
I don't know.
Let's move on to the people that disappointed us.
I don't know how they keep doing it. Yeah, let's talk about who disappointed us because it's a lot of people. My goodness, what is going on with the Bengals? Joe Burrow,
Yeah.
3.18 fantasy points. Jamar Chase, 9.1 fantasy points. T. Higgins, 0 fantasy points. I mean, just what are like on 8 targets? What was going on? Listen, you can't be too worried. We all remember last year the Bengals against the Steelers in Week 1. Joe Burrow threw 3 or 4 interceptions. Cannot be too worried about this offense yet because, listen, these guys are awesome. They make it deep in the playoffs every year. They've had a Super Bowl appearance with this guy. They are a great team, but something wasn't clicking on Sunday. And so we got to keep an eye on that. Those guys definitely were disappointments there. Devontae Adams, like we just said, seemed to take a back seat to Jacoby Myers on Sunday. 6 catches on 9 targets for 66 yards, 12.6 fantasy points. Kind of a Garrett Wilson situation. You drafted him high, you got to play him. I mean, I don't think this is the norm, but who knows? Maybe in this new regime and Josh McDaniels is like, hey, Jimmy Garoppolo, want to piss off our top wide receiver? And it was just, just make him real mad until he ends up leaving and we get out of the contract. Just let me know. And then he does. So there you go. Devontae Adams, not a great day. You know who else didn't have a great day? Lamar Jackson. Whoa. 6.56 fantasy points, 17 for 22, 169 yards, and an interception. 6 rushes for 38 yards so far, not on pace for over 1,000. Whoops. I want to say this is fluky, but it was the Texans. And I know they drafted Will Anderson Jr., but it's the Texans. And I know there's a new defensive-minded head coach, but it's the Texans. So I don't know what we're thinking here. I mean, I'm going to bet this is fluky. I think this offense will perform better. They lost their running back. They don't have Mark Andrews on the field. I think the Ravens are not going to sit in this area of, oh, hi, I'm Lamar Jackson and I'm getting you 7 points a game. No, he's going to do better than this, but definitely not the start any of these Lamar Jackson owners wanted.
No. I think the Texans defense actually is going to be top half of the league for defense, if not higher, maybe not top 15, something even better than that. I obviously think this is a fluke. I'm not concerned about Lamar Jackson, but it will certainly change when Mark Andrews is back. And as long as, we're talking about a couple other Ravens players too in our next segment here, but honestly, this segment here about the duds from Week 1 should be called the AFC North because then we got to go. Then Najee Harris was really bad too, man.
Yeah. Najee's bad, 5.3 fantasy points, only 6 rushes. I get maybe it's game script and they're down early, but 6
that
carries
worries me
for Najee Harris is a bit concerning. Yeah, I think that's something we really need to focus on next week and look at and go, okay, so can we get in the double digits for touches, or are we just going to sit at 8 for the rest of the year? Because that's not what we signed up for.
Let me pull this up because this is also not too hot. Najee Harris, 52% of snaps. Jalen Warren, backup running back, 40% of snaps.
Yeah.
I'm not liking this. And I really like Najee going into the season. I know their O-line is better. I know the 49ers defense is phenomenal. And Nick Bosa inked that deal and is there. And even though he didn't do much, his presence being there helped everyone. All the other 10 men on defense do great for the Niners. But I'm worried. I'm not selling Najee just yet, but I don't like that.
Yeah.
No,
not
thanks,
thrilled,
pal.
Mike Tomlin. Not thrilled. Thank you. Appreciate that. George Kittle, 4.9 fantasy points. Listen, it was the Purdy Ayuk show, mixed it with a little spice of Christian McCaffrey. That's how that went. Listen, George Kittle will get his, but there's one thing I said this offseason is I think he's going to have 5 or 6 games where he has 30 points, and then some of these games it's going to be a bit of a letdown. So I think everyone kind of knew that when they were signing up for it. We thought maybe there was a chance that they just continued this insane pace they had last year between Purdy and Kittle. And listen, 6 targets is still good for a tight end. So I'm not worried. If you're a George Kittle owner, you don't need to be panicking. You don't need to run your waiver wire and pick up God knows who, because the tight end spot was terrible this week.
Oh.
But George Kittle owners, don't be concerned. Just a bit of a down week there. Jalen Waddle, 11.8 fantasy points. Not exactly what you wanted drafting him at the 2-3 turn, but when Tyreek and Tua are clicking like that, it's just those two are going to be the guys that day. Tyreek still had 5 targets, made great yardage of his catches, 4 catches for 78 yards. He is definitely a big average, yards of, what am I saying? Air yards per catch. Yards. Yeah, that's the metric, the really simple one.
That's the one.
There. Yards per catch. There you go. The yards per catch right there are fantastic. So Waddle will have his games where he gets, more than 5 targets, and he'll have his games when he gets in the end zone, stuff like that. River Craycraft catches a touchdown this week. That could easily have been Jalen Waddle, and then you've got a 18-point week, and you're pretty thrilled with that. So I'm not going to say Waddle is touchdown dependent because he's not, but he'll be fine for you. Hey, the Cowboys shut out the Giants 40-0. Oh man, this new Cowboys offense must have been rolling. Yeah, Dak Prescott had 6 points.
Moore was a fluke.
And CeeDee Lamb had 11.7 on 4 catches. So not great. But what can you do? What can you expect from a quarterback when the defense is just absolutely dominating that way? That is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
They single-handedly won leagues this week. It was 40 points, guys. 40 points for the Cowboys defense in fantasy this week.
Yep.
Unreal. Last couple here. Saquon Barkley, who was on the other side of that game, one of our duds for week 1. 9.3 fantasy points. Cowboys defense is good. And listen, it seems like there's not much. I don't know if there's much more to this besides the Cowboys defense is really good. And we had
really
that
good.
in mind when we were looking at it. Yeah, really good
the
team.
Rain played a factor, but still bad.
As much as you'd like,
still
yeah.
Very bad.
Very bad. Josh Allen on Monday Night Football. Whew. We were talking during this game, Wes, and I said, what is it about the New York Jets that makes Josh Allen just make terrible decisions? Like, I don't understand. We're just chucking it into triple coverage. We're just 11 fantasy points, 236 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, a fumble, 4 turnovers. Hey, he's outpacing himself from last year for turnovers for this year. So that was what we talked about. Was that we thought maybe the conservative play calling. We thought we knew turnovers were an issue. 4 turnovers in 1 game to start out the season is not how you want to start that. Don't get me wrong, Jets defense, very good. 3 interceptions, all by Jordan Whitehead. Wow, that guy
remarkable.
Is incredible. That was freaking awesome. He's all over the field. Not a great week for Josh Allen, though. Listen, those are our highlights. Those are the players we know. Those are the ones we talk about. We're going to jump into a fan favorite. And listen, that may or may not be true, but I'm a fan of this show, and this is one of my favorite segments. So this is a fan favorite. I'm calling it a fan favorite. We got fluke or for real. That's right. We're going to talk about more of these performances here, and we need to break down. Is this going to happen again, or is this just fluky? Let's talk about it. Let's jump in because we got a trio of Jacksonville Jaguars. I almost said Detroit Lions. Trio of Jacksonville Jaguars skill players here to talk about. Calvin Ridley with 24.1 points. Whew. Travis Etienne with 21.4. Whew. And Zay Jones with 16.5. I feel good about Calvin Ridley and Travis Etienne. I think Zay Jones, this is one of the games where he got his this week. And I don't think that's necessarily going to be too consistent. But with Etienne and Ridley, I feel fantastic about rolling these guys out my lineup. Wes, what do you think?
Ridley, book it. Etienne, book it. Zay Jones, book it.
Oh, wow. Really?
90% snap count compared to Ridley's 80% snap count. I think this is the way the Jaguars offense rolls. He doesn't need to be the superstar that Calvin Ridley is, where he had over 100 yards, but Zay Jones is going to find the end zone enough times to be worth a flex option. He had 7 targets, 5 catches. I say book it. Now, I don't know if he's going to be the best waiver wire option, but I think that he is going to do this enough that you can have him when you need him. Who knows what injuries are going to happen next week? So this is what they were saying in camp. Zay Jones was the one receiver who kept making the play of the day, the catch of the day, as they would look at it through camp. I like it. Zay Jones is someone I'm interested in a lot.
Fantastic touchdown catch. If you didn't see it, go check that out. Listen, we already talked about it. Brandon Ayuk balled out. Fluker for real, Wes, but we know.
That's cookies.
That is cookies if I have ever seen it. That's for real, Brandon Ayuk. Roll them out. Shout out, Nick. Listen, that's cookies. Brandon Ayuk, cookies. Real quick, Aaron Jones. We already said it. Already talked about him real quick, but 26.7 fantasy points is something to look at and talk about. I think this is for real, but also I don't know if anyone has had as good a fantasy football performance on 11 touches. So I don't really know, but it does seem like it did seem like, I know last year we were looking at this backfield and going, it's going to be a split. Did not feel that way. Aaron Jones seemed to be the guy, and he was getting the snaps. He was getting the touches. A.J. Dillon did not really do a whole lot in this game. I think Aaron Jones is perfectly fine where you drafted him, and I think he's fine to stay in your lineup. I don't know if I'll say this. I don't know if he has another 27-point game this season. I think that we could have just seen
I doubt it.
Yeah, I think we could have just seen his best game of the year. But I'm fine keeping Aaron. I'm fine if you want to sell high, go for it. But I'm fine if you want to keep Aaron Jones in your lineup. It does seem like he's going to have a role in this offense.
100%. If you want to keep him, great. If you want to sell him, great. I think either option work. It's just as you said, 11 touches. That worries me. I'm going to lean towards Fluke, but I'm not going to demand that you sell high and try to get anybody that was drafted in the first two rounds. But A.J. Dillon did nothing, even though he actually outsnapped Aaron Jones. So that's part of. If I'm gonna have to choose, I'm gonna say Fluke. But
sure, no worries there.
I won't hate you if you disagree.
Yeah, no worries there. Fellow Packer, Romeo Doubs. Listen, 18.6 fantasy points. In a change of events, Romeo Doubs is a guy I was worried about drafting. He had a hamstring injury. Maybe it was some Cooper Kupp PTSD, but I was like, man, I was loving taking this guy towards the end of drafts. Not going to really do it anymore. 18.6 fantasy points, 4 catches for 26 yards and 2 touchdowns. Fluker for real with an asterisk, kind of, because I still kind of want to see how next week goes. Matt LaFleur. There you go. Matt LaFleur said Romeo Doubs. Matthew LaFleur said that Romeo Doubs was going to be on a snap count. He was not going to receive a full workload. So the targets worries me. Love the reports that we saw this offseason of Doubs being Love's favorite target coming true and seeing 2 touchdowns off of that. I'm excited about the future of Romeo Doubs. I loved Romeo Doubs last year, though, so I could be a little biased. What do you think, Wes? Fluker for real?
I agree 100% with you. I think it's for real, but it's also with an asterisk because we got to see what happens when Christian Watson is back and to also see what it looks like where they're not just blowing out the opponent.
Right.
Because how many more times are they going to need to pass the ball when they aren't just coasting through the game with ease? So, for real, asterisks.
Yeah. There you go. Tyler Algier, my freaking goodness. It wasn't even like he stopped Bijan from having a good game. But Tyler Algier, 24.4 fantasy points, 15 carries for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns, 3 catches on 3 targets for 19 yards. That's 300 times more than Drake London. So there you go. There's that. Tyler Algier, 5th-round running back out of friggin' BYU. Okay.
Okay.
Fluker for real?
Okay. Here's what I'm going to say. For real.
Right.
But not better than Bijan.
Right.
And Bijan will continue to have better games than Tyler Algier. Yeah. But Tyler Algier will be the only other Falcon you should have on your team.
Yeah.
So
that's so crazy to say because it's
Desmond
so true.
Ridder was so bleep blackin' whackin' packin' bad, dude, that Drake London ended up with 0 points because he was that bad.
Yeah.
At least T. Higgins had targets. Drake had 1. I feel bad for Kyle Pitts owners. I'm very pessimistic about that, but just roll out Bijan and Tyler Algier. Algier is no longer the handcuff for Bijan. He's a flex option.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Tyler Algier will get 10 to 15 carries every single game this season. I think he will. I think he is locked in there because I think the Atlanta Falcons are going to run the football 40 times a game this year. And I think they're just, we knew this coming into the year, but they run the football so much. Funniest thing, I don't know if you remember or you saw this, Wes, Desmond Ritter's first pass of the season, batted up in the air, and he catches it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Desmond Ridder had more catches than Drake London did in this game. Just a little note there to talk about. How sad is that? That is terrible. Listen, a trio of New England Patriots here. Mac Jones, 30.1 we talked about. Kendrick Bourne, 11 targets, 6 catches for 64 yards and 2 touchdowns, 24.4 fantasy points. And then Hunter Henry, 16.6 fantasy points and a touchdown. Good call out, Wes, when we were talking about Mike Gesicki's injury, saying Hunter Henry was going to be a good week 1 start.
Thank you.
Definitely seems to be the case. What do we think about these 3, Fluke or for real?
I mean, no offense to Patriots fans, but I can't quite buy into Mac Jones just yet. I need to see it again. As exciting as this is, I need to see it again. And I know it's the Eagles defense. Don't get me wrong. But look, Justin Herbert barely got 200 yards and 1 touchdown against the Dolphins defense. I don't think the Dolphins defense is better than the Eagles, but I don't think Mac Jones is better than Justin Herbert. So let's see him do it again. So prove me wrong. I say Fluke, do it again. Kendrick Bourne, I'm interested in. I like what happened. There's no really other passing option outside of Hunter Henry, who is absolutely for real. Hunter Henry is a lock for a tight end to be on your team if you don't already have him. If he's for whatever reason still on the waiver, I would consider him a waiver wire ad, but I've got someone that I really want to talk about. But Henry for sure, for real.
Yeah, 100%. Couple of Colts players here. Anthony Richardson, really solid debut, 22.9 fantasy points. And then Michael Pittman Jr., 23.7 fantasy points, 11 targets, 8 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown. Man, I'm starting to fear that Michael Pittman should have been way higher on all of our rankings because I know we were a little worried about Richardson's accuracy. 24 for 37. Not great, but still not bad. 223 yards and a touchdown. He obviously runs in a touchdown as well. And Michael Pittman gets 11 targets, man. I think both these guys are for real. I don't know if you agree, but I think both of these guys are for real.
I do agree. I'm not ready to start Pittman, and I don't really have to necessarily, but Richardson, though. Richardson's for real. Real. For those that did say, at the end of your drafts, you're like, you know what? Let me just see what happens with Richardson. I know he's the week 1 starter. Yes. Especially if you had any of the former quarterbacks we mentioned, like Burrow or Kenny Pickett or Daniel Jones, Lamar Jackson. At least you've got Richardson. Now, you're obviously not going to start him over Jackson or Burrow, but well, what a time. And a close game, too. No joke, because the Jaguars are for real.
Yeah, no. Colts look good. Anthony Richardson looks good. A couple other guys here to just talk about real quick. Kyron Williams. Oh, man. I was so excited for Cam Akers, and I can say effectively, I think Cam Akers is the backup on this team. I'm not even kidding you. Kyron Williams comes out 15 carries for 52 yards and 2 touchdowns. And now Cam Akers had a decent day. He had more carries. But if you look at the distribution and breakdown of those carries, he got all of that when the Rams were up big with like 8 minutes left in the game. Kyren Williams was the guy in this Rams backfield for the majority of this game, playing well, 2 touchdowns. Kyren Williams, guy we talked about towards the end of the year last year, I mean, you can tell I'm in on Kyren Williams. I think it's for real, as real as a Rams running back can get. I mean, the Rams played great, and they upset the Seahawks, so maybe this is a legit guy you need to be going to pick up. I'm not sure. What do you think, Wes?
Kyren Williams had a 65% snap count. Cam Akers had a 35%. Book it. Kyren Williams is a real
that's
deal.
What I'm saying. Yeah, Kyren Williams
He's
is
the
for real.
starting running back for the Rams.
Yeah, he is the starting running back for the Rams. Last two rookie receivers, guys that I love. Jordan Addison with 16.1 fantasy points and Zay Flowers with 17.7 fantasy points. I'm thinking both these guys are for real. I'm calling for real. What do you think, Wes?
I don't even need to talk. Of course they're for real. We've
Both these
been
guys
so hyped on them
so
all
impressive.
offseason.
So impressive. Zay Flowers, 48% snap share. I'm pretty sure. 48% target share. I believe it was above 40. That won't continue when Mark Andrews is back, but Zay Flowers is the dude in the wide receiver room. Excited to see him go out there and play that well. I feel like all these guys I'm about to mention on the negative side of this are all for real, and it's a bummer to talk about, but let's talk about them real quick because we got Antonio Gibson, 0.8 fantasy points. Fluker for real.
For real. It's Brian Robinson's backfield.
Yeah, it is. That is so disappointing, man. I was ready to be hurt again. I bought back in, and I got hurt. There you go. Drake London, we already talked about it. That's for real. Don't even bother pulling him out in your lineup. big ol'. Yeah.
I've become such a hater of Drake London. I don't know how good apparently he went to a high school in LA, and I know some friends that went to school with him, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I don't think he's that great. I just tell them to their face. I don't mean to hate on him. I just think he's not good for fantasy.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Drake London, that's for real. Don't roll him out. Deebo Samuel, 11.3 fantasy points. Listen, we talked about it all offseason. This is for real. Brandon Ayuk is the guy. Odell Beckham Jr., 2 catches on 3 targets for 37 yards. That's about where we felt this was going. That's for real. Yep. Couple here that we need to talk about, though, because T. Higgins had 0 points. This Bengals offense was just abysmal. But he had 8 targets. Listen, we have just as performance to go on for the season. I'm calling fluke, though. What do you think?
I am calling fluke as well.
It's got to be, right? It has to be.
It can't be this. I mean, it was a horrible game. I mean, we actually shared it on our socials as well that Joe Burrow averages about 14 points a game in his career for week 1. And then every other game, it's 19 points on average. They're going to get better. It's going to be fine. Don't panic on the Bengals. Hang tight. If you don't have T. Higgins, now's a great chance to go try to get him for a great value. But I'm not worried. There's no way that is for real.
Yeah, on 8 targets, it's really tough to get 0 fantasy points. It doesn't happen again. This is fluky for sure. DJ Moore, 4.5 fantasy points. Hard stat line to look at. And I can only imagine what the Bears fans are thinking. We gave up so much. Or we gave up, picks, first overall pick. We got DJ Moore. And Justin Fields throws him the ball twice. In a game where they're down big. What do we do? What do we do here? Fluker for real, Wes? I mean, I know you are Uga Chaka hooked on a feeling. What are you thinking? Because you really came around and were high on DJ Moore. I want to know what do we need to be thinking with DJ Moore?
The feeling that is definitely Uga Chaka. No, I'm worried. I'm worried.
Yeah.
But I can hold out another week or two.
Yeah.
I can hold out because I saw what happened with the Bears. And outside of Roshan Johnson, who, speaking of which, I think is probably the Bears starting running back. I'm not too high on him. But outside of him, the Bears just were bad. That was just a bad game. It's kind of like the Steelers and the Bengals. That was just a bad game. And DJ Moore is much, much more affordable than T. Higgins. So if you want to just kind of throw in like, hey, here's a freaking, I don't know, name someone that had like, if it's someone that had like 10 points, you could be like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like DJ Moore's that great. I need a wide receiver. What do you think? You know, it's an opportunity to just give it a shot. I believe in DJ Moore. Yep. I'm going to call that fluke.
Yeah, I think that's fluky as well. Last one here. Tyler Lockett. Only 3 fantasy points. Tyler Lockett, I feel like, has these games every year. So I think this is fluky. I know he was also dealing with a potential head injury during this game. And he was out for a little bit. So I was very surprised to see the Seahawks play so poorly. But what do you think, Wes?
Not falling for it again. He's top 15. He does this every time.
Yeah.
Week 1, he's so garbage. And then he's going to be there. He's going to be top 12. I'm not falling for it again. It's a fluke. Tyler Lockett's going to be the best wide receiver. I can't sit here in front of a camera that's being recorded and say, oh, this is for real. Tyler Lockett's a bust. Nope. He's tricked me so many years.
It happens all the time. He is always such an unsexy pick to make in your fantasy drafts. You never feel great. You're just like, I guess I'll take Lockett. I think he's going to do okay. And then he does this, and you freak out, and then he ends up top 15. Listen, stay the course. Tyler Lockett will be okay. Real quick, just a moment of silence for the Giants and Darren Waller, because, man, what that performance could have been was nothing like what we wanted. Better days come for Darren Waller. Oh. Thank you. Better days come for Darren Waller. Listen, crazy week 1. We're going to go over our waiver wire ads of the week real quick and then do a little quick Thursday night football preview before we close out the show. And I'm excited because I just talked about the opponent of this. I just talked about this guy's opponent that he went up against this week. Puka Nacua, baby. Everyone's, Van Jefferson's going to get all the targets with Cooper Kupp's gone. Oh, Tyler Higbee's a good start with Cooper Kupp's gone. Puka Nacua stepped in and said, hey, hold my beer. I got this. 15 targets. Set a record for most targets by a rookie in their debut. If we know one thing about Matthew Stafford, it is when he finds his guy, he finds his guy. Puka Nacua is his guy. At least while Cooper Kupp is out, we know that's going to be at least another 3 weeks. And I'm not even worried. If you pick him up on your waiver wire, throw him in your flex right now. This Rams offense looked better than we ever thought it would this season. Puka Nacua is going to be a really, really solid flex play for as long as he has this wide receiver 1 role and this connection with Matthew Stafford. Puka Nacua is the dude. And listen, his name is just fun to say too. So there you go. That's a reason to have him on your team, if not for anything else. So there you go. Puka Nacua, waiver wire out of the week. Book it.
I'm going to read you what I wrote down from the Rams camp. This is the summary that I kind of found out here. Okay.
Yeah.
The Cooper Kupp we fell in love with and I'm reading my words. These are my words of my summary from the Rams camp. The Cooper Kupp we fell in love with and took the world by storm in 2021 is alive and sort of, well, maybe. His hamstring injury has gone from a cause of concern to a fly into the doctor concern. If he avoids any long-term injury, Kupp will be the triple crown winner type of player once more. Outside of him, the rookie Puka Nacua made a name for himself in camp and might sneak his way onto the field every now and again. This is for real. He is legit. He should be the number 1 waiver wire option. I've got a great backup that I'll talk about here, but Puka Nacua is the man. I don't know what Kelly Stafford was talking about, and she was like, "Oh, it doesn't really get along with anyone else, and there's so much younger than him." Yeah, it's true.
He doesn't know anybody's name. He doesn't know the guy's name. How do you not know Puka Nacua? Yeah. When you get a team named Puka Nacua, how do you not know the guy's name? Yeah, no, he knows the guy's name. Yeah,
it's for real. Don't be afraid. I love it. He's legit.
Dude made some awesome catches. 15 targets is not something that is fluky. He is going to get his for sure. Now, Wes, talk to me about your waiver wire ad because it's somebody that we got a really good look at this week.
Very good look at. In fact, in person, Joshua Kelly, running back for the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, this is a name that you and I actually talked about in this offseason, which is why we want to encourage you to subscribe. And so you can be here for the offseason because then, like me, you would have drafted him already in 3 leagues and you knew this was going to happen. So here's the thing. Just to recap what's going on with the Chargers, Austin Eckler, contract dispute, this whole thing. He went to go seek a trade. He didn't get it. They told him, no, we're not going to pay you. He signed a 1-year deal. He's going to be with the Chargers for the rest of this season at most. I'm not trying to imply any trades, but I'm just saying that's what the situation is. He's only going to be here for this season. That's it. Who are they going to go look at now? Who else is in the running back team? How about the guy that got 15 carries? Joshua Kelly had a 48% snap count to Austin Eckler's 51. That's it. It was almost right down the middle. And they took turns like a Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt kind of split backfield. You and I were looking on the field. It was like, there's freaking number 25 again. There he goes. And carving up the Dolphins defense. He had 91 rushing yards. Austin Eckler performed as a first-round pick, and he still got 91 rushing yards. Now, the PPR game may not be as exciting or as enticing as Austin Eckler's, but he had just as many red zone attempts as Austin Eckler. He had the 12th most carries of all running backs this week. He only had 1 less carry than Austin Eckler. Joshua Kelly is absolutely worth keeping. Kind of like Algier, he's not even just a handcuff. He's a potential flex starter. He's my waiver wire ad, especially if you can't get Puka Nacua.
Yeah, I love it. I looked over at your own point and just gave this kind of smile. It's hard to smile when your defense is getting carved up on the ground. But I looked over at you and I was like, dude, Kelly's getting a lot of run right now. And we're just like, yeah, dude, we nailed it. We're like on top of this.
We looked at each other like a proud baseball dad. We looked at each other. We were like, it was just like, all right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I like it.
Is that a De Niro baseball dad? Was that what that was?
Yeah, pretty much. He's just,
Josh Kelly. Yeah, there you go. That was good. Listen, I love it. We talk about Joshua Kelly a lot. He's a guy who had a legit role. I've heard, and I haven't heard official reporting, there was like a little play in that Chargers-Dolphins game where like Eckler came up kind of weird. And obviously he played through the whole game, so it was fine. But something to maybe keep your ears open about because like Joshua Kelly and like Tyler Algier, these guys have standalone flex value. If the running back in front of them goes down, these guys are instantly RB2s. Like these guys are instantly locked into your lineup. Definitely people that are worth having on your team for sure. Waiver ads of the week.
I believe Brandon Staley referred to Eckler's injury as an ankle. Whatever that means.
Nice. Top notch. There you go. Brandon Staley. Dude, people hate him. You know that? People are like, fire Staley. I didn't really get it. I think he's running
I spoke to a Chargers
team,
fan. He hates Staley.
Yeah, I guess they
want him gone.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. Listen, waiver wires. Boom. Book it. Let's do a little Thursday Night Football preview before we close out the show, Wes, because we got some, as always, must-starts, risky starts, and don't starts. Kick it off as we go through Thursday Night Football preview.
My must-start is someone that literally just scored 0 points. I want you to still start Dallas Goedert, tight end for the Eagles. I know that seems so scary, and that seems so discouraging and so disappointing. I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened. But the Eagles' offense all around kind of looked a little flat, at least by their standard from last year. I'm not worried about the Eagles' offense. I'm going to chalk it up, as honest as I can, to a rainy day against Bill Belichick in Gillette. Okay? I'm going to chalk it up to that because that does happen. And we might see a little bit of that with the Dolphins offense on Sunday night. It's just as much as the Patriots may not be the same without Tom Brady, Bill Belichick still can figure things out on defense. That's what he's always done. I'm going to chalk it up to that. And you put Dallas Goedert in your lineup. They're still going to use him. He's still part of that team. Don't be scared. Dallas Goedert must start him.
Yeah, and this is a vote of confidence, guys. Maybe it was just the Tom Brady, celebration before the game that had this Patriots defense jacked up and just fired up, ready to. I watched the highlights for this game. I was like, the Eagles won this game? Like what? Like what? Like what? Like this did not look like they should have won this game, and they pull it out. Dallas Goedert needs to remain in lineups. Don't get worried. It is. Listen, if we're talking fluke or for real, fluke. This is fluky, and Dallas Goedert belongs in your lineup for sure. My must start is on the other side of the field, and that is on the Minnesota Vikings. Rookie pass catcher, and touchdown scorer, Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison, what an awesome sight it was to see him get in the end zone on a long 39-yard touchdown. The reality that we saw is coming true. The wide receiver 2 on the Minnesota Vikings is relevant again. And he belongs in lineups. I said to you, Wes, I gave these rookies a week. I wanted to see where they would be at. I felt good about Zay Flowers. I felt good about Jordan Addison. I wanted to give them a week because in case I was wrong, I wanted these guys to not be in my lineup. And man, do I wish I had them in every single lineup I was in. Jordan Addison can be firmly put in your lineup as at least a flex play from here on out for the rest of the season. Kirk Cousins will be looking for him, and he will be looking for him in the end zone as well. This dude is shifty. He's quick. He's fast. The route he ran on this touchdown, he did like a little half step to the outside and then just went straight to the post, was wide open. Great route. Jordan Addison is that guy that we thought he was going to be, and he belongs in lineups. He is a must start for me on Thursday Night Football.
Now, anyone who does remember last season, it was week 2 as well. The Vikings played the Eagles, and Justin Jefferson got shut down, and that Vikings offense was terrible. Okay? So here's 2 things to consider. One, the one that shut him down does not play for the Eagles anymore. CJ Gardner-Johnson is not there, so that's fine. And number 2, they're still going to guard Justin Jefferson no matter what.
Yep.
So the extra vote of confidence of like, oh, I thought Addison did well, but what about the Eagles? Well, I mean, freaking Kendrick Bourne just dominated too. So Kendrick Bourne may be something, I don't know, but we knew Jordan Addison was something. He was your favorite wide receiver rookie going into the season. That's probably shifted now to Zay Flowers, so I'm going to be honest here. But
definitely had, yeah.
It's going to be fine. Start him. He is worth starting. This is the Vikings wide receiver that we talked about, the one that you predicted before the draft, Noah. What if Addison and Justin Jefferson line up on the same field together? That'd be pretty nice. There it is. Book it.
It was an awesome sight.
Don't be scared.
Didn't lead to a win, but it was fun to see him produce. There
no,
you go,
they didn't
man.
win together.
Yeah, no, but great performances from both of them there. Risky starts, Wes. Hit me with yours. I'll give you mine, and then we'll jump to don't starts and close it out.
My risky start is actually going to be Kirk Cousins. I did just preface what happened last year against the Eagles, week 2 as well. I am worried that may happen again. And what he did last year is he got 221 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. And he finished with a whopping 8.84 4 points. Again, it's a little bit of a different defense. It's different defensive coordinator now. He's now coaching the Cardinals. Now, I want to clarify that this is still a risk because I know that Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson and Alexander Mattison are all there. And KJ Osborne, for those that love him, I don't trust him. This is a bad risk for me. I don't trust him. I know he just got over 20 points, but there's some of you that may be panicking. But the quarterbacks that you just started, because you may have Joe Burrow, you may have Lamar Jackson, you may have Josh Allen, you may have Aaron Rodgers, you may have Kenny Pickett, you may have another quarterback that you wish did a lot better, and you may say, well, you may have Geno Smith, who got like 9 points. And you may say, well, Kirk Cousins is right there, and I know he's got the best wide receiver in the NFL. I don't trust that. I think it's a risk. I'm not buying it. I don't like it. That's my risky start.
But Wes, Mac Jones just scored 30 points on the Eagles. That's what I gotta say about that. That's what I gotta say about that. Kirk Cousins, don't do it. Don't think about it.
Don't do it.
It's not worth it. Don't do it. I fully agree. I know. Listen. Kirk Cousins is gonna throw 180 yards and 2 touchdowns, all to Jordan Addison. That's why he's in my must start. There you go. That's it.
Perfect. What a great week.
Simplified right there.
Almost as good as Tyreek Hill. Believe it or not, the stat you just gave is still not as good as Tyreek Hill.
Still not quite, but really, yeah. What happened at SoFi Stadium, dude? That was awesome.
We were there. Whoa!
That was awesome. Listen, all right,
your risky start.
A guy that I was drafting at the end of a lot of drafts this year. Really excited to see this guy do what he did in week 1. Kenneth Gainwell, Philadelphia Eagles running back. And I'm going to say it, starting running back for the Philadelphia Eagles, because he had 14 carries to DeAndre Swift's 1 and Boston Scott's 1. Kenneth Gainwell dominated the running back carries for this team. He also had a couple catches. I'm only saying risky because, listen, it really comes down to I don't think Nick Sirianni is all that smart, to be completely honest. And he may just be like, hey, they're expecting Gainwell. It's going to be Scott this week. And that could happen. But Kenneth Gainwell, I think, is a guy that is actively going to get around 15 touches a game for the Eagles this year. And that's about what Miles Sanders was getting last year. I think Kenneth Gainwell can be a sneaky top 30 running back this year. And he's a great, great value. He may even still be out on your waiver wire. He may not even been drafted. If he's there, definitely a guy that I would consider going to grab as well. But Kenneth Gainwell, this is a good risky start. All signs point to this being a positive flex play for you this week. I think it's a good risky start. I think Kenneth Gainwell can be put into lineups. He's going to get about 15 touches. And if he falls into the end zone 1 or 2 times, he's going to give you a great week. So Kenneth Gainwell, risky start on the upside. Upside for sure.
It's also just a risk because we don't know how good an Eagles rushing attack outside of Jalen Hurts looks. And it's a different running back. Miles Sanders got over 1,000 yards, but will Gainwell do that? We'll find out. Out. He certainly has the volume and the snap counts and the opportunities and touches to be a starting running back that can be in your flex. But that's as much as he should be. But I see it. I see what you're saying. So much so that, we'll just state the obvious for our don't start. Don't start DeAndre Swift.
And that's a double down. That is a double down right there.
Maybe ever again.
Maybe ever again. We were talking about it today, and I said I feel bad that we're just ragging on DeAndre Swift at this point. And he's come up so many times just negatively on this show in a span of 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You see why. He got 1 carry. He's not man, we were excited for the opportunity, but DeAndre Swift, don't roll him out there. Don't think week 1 was nah, it's all part of the game plan. He's going to come out week 2 super strong. Nope. DeAndre Swift belongs on benches.
Yeah, it was part of the game plan for A.J. Brown to get like 14 points in fantasy, too. It was all part of the plan. Dallas Goedert got a goose egg. No. Swift is not it. I think we've one weekend. We've already answered the question for what if DeAndre Swift meets his potential in Philadelphia. Well, he won't.
He won't. He won't. That's the fact of the matter. He will not. So there you go. Listen, that is what we've got for the show today. We thank you guys for listening. We love doing this. We love being able to talk fantasy with you guys. Thank you all for all your support. This week has been awesome. We got a lot of growth on our YouTube channel. We got a lot of traction and eyes on some stuff on social media. Over 50,000 views on one of our Instagram reels. So cool. We love doing this for you guys, with you guys. It's been an awesome journey so far, and we're looking forward to the future for sure. And to help you guys win some fantasy championships this year, because week 1, pretty crazy, and we're going to have to see what happens next. Listen, let us know in the comments what you think. If you won your week, if you lost, let us know what you think. Are you picking up Josh Kelly? Are you picking up Puka Nacua? Are you in on those guys there? Or are you maybe looking for Kenneth Gainwell if he's still out there? Let us know. Follow us on all our socials. Make sure you're following us and engaging there. Like, comment. Shoot us a DM if you got any questions about your lineup. Leave a comment. We'd be happy to answer and help you guys out. Join us on Friday for our Thursday night football recap. Eagles versus Vikings and our studs and duds for week 2. In honor of Tua Tagovailoa, I'm Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And this has been 4th and Troll Fantasy. 4th and Troll Fantasy is a production of Selby Artistic Workshop.